really excited to share with you all that I just gave my notice at my 9-to-5 dependable, reliable job. And I am equally excited and terrified, but this also feels so good. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Katrina Neeson and I am the Sourdough Mama. I'm a former teacher and instructional designer for Scholastic, now hopefully turning sourdough educator full-time. So I wanted to start a little mini series to talk through some of the steps and exciting things that are happening as I launch my Sourdough Mama business full-time. So to start with that, today is celebrating a huge, I call it first step, but really there have been so many steps that have led to this point. But it feels like the first official step towards becoming the Sourdough Mama full-time. So what I thought I would jump on here and share today in celebration of giving my notice to my job, which I literally just did like a few hours ago, is talking through where this all began. And so starting back in January 2023, we're taking it back there, I took this journal on New Year's Day to a local hotel here in San Diego. And I sat down and I thought through all of the things that I was hopeful for and wanted to do in the next year. And of course, it's now been 2 years, but thinking through what I wanted to do. And I had so many ideas. I had already at that point started teaching a little bit of sourdough workshops, but no idea where it would take me. But I knew I liked how it felt. I liked being an educator again. I liked connecting with women who are maybe in a similar phase of life as me, postpartum or young mothers, and teaching them a valuable skill. So in here, I had written down that I wanted to do something. And it's really neat that it's come full circle that I finally am. So one thing I want to share during these chats, though, is some of the things I've done to help myself because I think it could also help others. So to begin, let's talk a little bit first about how I found sourdough baking, because I think some of you might be interested in that. And what I did is I've got these little cards, I wrote little prompts for myself, little questions that I felt people might ask. So that's what these are for. So for me, sourdough really did become a form of therapy. I first discovered sourdough not during 2020, but shortly after I had my daughter, Sophia. And in that time, I was hit pretty hard with postpartum depression. I was completely thrown for a loop. I didn't really feel like myself or that I had something I could do besides taking care of this little person, which is so important, but I also knew I needed other things. And that was when one day I was doom scrolling Instagram and I found this amazing girl. Her name is actually Madeline Marshall. She's awesome and she makes sourdough. And I was completely inspired and blown away by her bread. And I had no idea you could make sourdough artistic and beautiful. And from that point on, that is where I just fell in love and began to bake weekly, learning all that I could, reading books, reading articles, reaching out to people in different Facebook groups, and just absorbing all I could. So that was really how I got started with sourdough. But in these little videos here, what I really want to also talk about is progressing from that to where I am now, because I don't think I'm alone in that there's many women, men, individuals that want to take something they're passionate about and leap into it full time. So I am no expert. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I can share what I am trying out, and hopefully you can learn through my experimentation and my victories and mistakes to see if you might be doing something similar with your ideas. Let's talk a little bit about how I got started doing sourdough workshops, because I think right off the bat, if you're trying to get your foot in the door somewhere to share your skill or education, that can be a challenge. So for me, sourdough workshops specifically are a little interesting, but what I did have a background in is instructional design and teaching. And I put those two skills to use. So I knew how to make a presentation, a PowerPoint. I knew how to put videos together and just plan a learning session. And I used that once I started to have friends plant the seed in my head. Libby, I love you. Thank you for doing that. But I had friends plant the seed in my head that I should teach workshops. And once that happened, I thought, maybe I could. So I started to put something together so that right off the bat, if I reached out to anyone or an opportunity came up, I would be prepared. And so just on the side, as I could, I would work on a PowerPoint. I worked on notes, and I worked on like a little logo just to come up with something that looked kind of professional. And then I had my Sourdough Mama materials for a workshop. Then what happened is there was a local cafe that opened up near me, specifically geared towards new mothers. And I saw that they were looking for workshops for that space. And I couldn't think of a more perfect connection, not only to sourdough, but to what I felt was missing and what I wanted to do for others, for moms, specifically new moms. And I basically reached out and said I was interested to the owner and told her a little bit about sourdough workshops and what I could do, and went from there. At first it was a very slow conversation. It was just kind of curiosity, and I'm not sure if they felt I could do it in the space they had. But the more that I approached them with confidence and the more that I showed them my actual materials and outline, I literally wrote down, here's what the presentation would be, what we'd cover, how I would do it. It was like a document with a table and everything. Then I ran into the owner at a local farm. And in my head, I was like, Katrina, don't be that girl. Don't insert yourself. Like, she's out here with her family. But I did. And I just said, hi, I'm Katrina. I messaged you a little bit about workshops. And then I left it at that though. And we chatted and just got to know each other. But I do think that putting myself out there and that personal connection, it paid off. And eventually they were so welcoming and opened their arms to me and let me come in and try a workshop. It was amazingly successful. It sold out. It went really well. And from there, I kept them going as I could. So at this point, mind you, I still have my 9-to-5 job, but on weekends, I once or twice a month was doing a workshop there. And then I started to listen to my former participants and what they wanted. And they were saying they wanted a level 2 or wanted one focused on the scoring, the decorative part, which is what I got really into. So I started to adjust and serve that as well. And from there, once I had some good credibility, I began to look for other cafes in the area that hosted workshops, and I reached out to them. So it was this slow build of getting out there in the community, starting with one place and really just not giving up and being very direct about trying to get in for a workshop, but having something to show for it, not just all talk. I had logo, I had the plan that they could actually read typed up. And then another thing to note with a lot of these is starting off the bat, you're not gonna make as much money as you'd probably hope. So that's why doing it on the side of a job is really safe. So a lot of venues, they'll wanna do like a 60-40 split where you get 60% of the sales and they get 40%. And that's where I started out. Since then, I've been able to negotiate a little more. We're gonna be raising prices. So those are all things you can do as you scale and get experience and a reputation to help. But that is how I got started doing sourdough workshops. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this exactly, finding the confidence to leave your 9-to-5. And what I would say is I'm reading 2 Weeks Notice right now. I think it's Amy Potterfield. I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But one of the things that she says in her book is it's not about having confidence, but it's about having courage. Because confidence can come later as you're more and more successful, but courage is the first step. And I think that's 100% true. How I found the courage to leave my 9-to-5 is I just decided to do it. There's been some other things at play with my current role though, that I've just had a voice in my head saying, it's time. I have been stagnant in this work. I feel for education very deeply, but I have just felt I need to try something outside of the traditional educational space with children, and something that I'm really fired up about and with adults, and especially, as I said, new mothers, postpartum, things like that. I think sourdough can really be beneficial for. So I just decided I was going to do it. But I also, before that even, have been making a list in my head of all the different ways that I can support myself when I leave my 9 to 5, because I don't have the luxury of not going, or going without a salary. I do still need to have income for our family. And so I started to think through, what are all of the skills I have that could help me, even in addition to the sourdough mama business. So on the side, I've always had scripted lessons on Teachers Pay Teachers that I've sold. So that's something that I can continue to work on that will help me. I could always freelance and have those skills to help me with instructional design. But my main focus and my main goal for where I want to head is the sourdough mama. So I've started to think of, what are other venues that I can tap into? What are online resources that I can create? And it really was when I made that plan of, how can I support myself financially? That gave me the confidence and courage, I should say. The other piece is support from loved ones and family. When I had the talk with my husband, that was a huge turning point. It meant everything. My husband is very calculated and safe with our decisions, and especially with finances. He's an accountant. So I was really scared to talk through it with him, but I was amazingly surprised at how much he believes in me and how much support he's putting into this. That's been a huge part of feeling courage to leave my 9 to 5. Talking with family and friends, that's helped as well. My social media bread family, that helps too. So all of those things have kind of given me the pushes that I've needed to take this step. So I'm feeling very supported in this choice. Another thing I want to point out that I think is really key is, and this is talked about in the book I'm reading too, is you're gonna go back and forth like almost daily on how you feel if you're planning to leave your secure, stable 9 to 5 and venture into something. It's terrifying. So it's completely normal to do that. I'm gonna probably get off of this and do it too. I don't know, but it's completely normal. And I think I've also had a really good mindset of, this is something that I'm trying, and if it fails, I can always go and find another job. That will always be there for me. But this opportunity at this time might not be for me to try this again. And it is really good timing to leave my current role. There's changes happening, and I've just felt pushed to take the leap. So know that if you keep making excuses and thinking like you can't do it, you just have to decide you are going to. I think that is super key. So I already touched a little bit on how I plan to replace my salary, my 9 to 5, but in the next video that I share, I want to talk through that a little bit more, and specific things and steps that I'm taking to help me feel confident with that. So stay tuned, and I will have another video soon. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go meet up with some girlfriends and go celebrate, because this is really exciting. Thank you for being here.